Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the vertex form of a parabola. So let's just get started by looking at what this really is. So when I start and when I say a parabola, let's think of a Cartesian plane. There's a Cartesian plane. And now the parabola looks a bit like this. Alright, and normally you would write this as y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. This is like the normal form of a parabola. This is what you might find commonly, but now we're going to dive deeper into another way you can write this form. A parabola can be expressed as y is equal to a x minus h whole square plus k. Now let's look at each component over here. So let's look at h and k to start with. So basically h comma k is our vertex, which is why this is called the vertex form. This is the vertex form. Why? Because h and k, they represent the vertex. So basically what this means is that if I were to draw a parabola like so, the turning point, which is about here, when the parabola kind of is going down here, going down here, going down here, but now it flips over and goes back up. This point, this is the vertex, okay? And this is what is represented by h and k in our formula up here. So now you may ask, what is the A? So A is actually quite interesting. It controls a couple of things. First of all, it controls the direction. It controls the direction, which means that if A is greater than 0, then the parabola is going to be upward opening. It's going to be a happy parabola. I think you may know this from here as well, from y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. If the a over here is positive, then it's an upward opening parabola, okay? And if a is less than 0, then that's where our parabola, let me just rub this out and redraw it, our parabola is going to become a downward opening parabola. It's going to become a sad smile. This is how I remember it. If it's negative, negative can remind you of sad face, so you can think of it like that. And if it's more than 0, then it's positive, and that's why this reminds us of happy stuff. So this smile or frown, this is the shape of the parabola, okay? This is the shape of the parabola, and this is how you can remember it. Okay, so now that we know what A controls, direction, we should also look at what A controls. Another thing, A also controls the width of the parabola. So, if A, for example, if A is greater than 1, and we're going to take the absolute value over here. These lines represent the absolute value, and basically what this means is that whatever value is inside, if a is negative 1.25 and you take the absolute value of this basically becomes the positive version of itself. If it was positive to start with, and then we take the absolute value, it remains this, okay? It remains itself. So this is the absolute value sign. So now, if the absolute value of A is greater than 1, then that means it's going to be more narrow. It's going to be more narrow. This is because the graph will look a bit like this. Compared to a normal one, which might look like this, it has gotten a little bit narrow, you see? Narrow, this is more wide. So basically, that's the difference. That's the difference which we mean by it being narrower. Now, if the absolute value of A was less than 0, if it's less than 0, then what that means, that's not what I meant to say, sorry. If it's between 0 and 1, but it's less than 1, and it's greater than 0, then that means it's gonna be wider. Okay, so basically this means it's gonna be more flatter, you can think of it. So now when we draw our parabola, and if it has an a value of 0.25, our parabola might look a bit like this, quite wide. And this is what I mean by flatter. It's a bit flatter than when you had this one, which is not as flat. So basically, that's what your A controls, which is this one over here, which is this bit over here. So now we've looked at what H is, what K is, and what A is. Let me just explain a bit more about H and K very quickly. So, basically, here, our H is our x value of vertex. So since we have y is equal to a x minus h plus k and squared, here, since this is negative k, we only look at k. So if it was like x minus 5, the actual vertex, where the x value at the vertex would be 5, not negative 5. This is something that normally happens quite a lot. It's a mistake that people do a lot of times, but I just want you to know that this is gonna be the positive one. It's gonna be just what is here. However, if it was x plus 5, then this is basically x minus 5, right? So our h is actually equal to negative 5 over here, so which is why our vertex, the x value at our vertex would be negative 5. However, this is not the case for k, which is the y value at the vertex. So if we had y is equal to a x minus h plus 5, our y value at the vertex would be 5. If it was instead minus 5, then our y value would be negative 5. That's basically what h and k really control. So this is what we can do. If we want to plot a graph using this, how can we do it? This is a bit of an important topic, so pay attention. Here, how can you plot it? First of all, you will know that the vertex is at HK. Then you want to find your x-intercepts. Okay, you can find the x-intercepts by setting y is equal to 0, right? And that's when you will find your x-intercepts. X-intercepts are basically the values of x over there. And as you can see, y is equal to 0 over there. So that's why you can find the x-intercepts like that. So once you set y to 0, you will have 0 is equal to a x minus h whole square plus k. And you can find your x values from there. You will not have these variables when you're doing this. It will be easier. So that's how you can do it. After that, you want to find, probably it would be easy to find the y-intercept. Now the y-intercept is basically, if I draw it up like this, okay? The y-intercept is right where the graph crosses the y-axis, basically. So over here, this is where the graph crosses the y-axis, and that is our y-intercept. That's our y-intercept. And using these 3 points, you would have 2 x-intercepts, obviously, because it's a parabola, not a line. It crosses 2 times, so that's why. Or you might just have one actually. You might just have it like that. You might have none, or you might have one. So this is where you have no x-intercepts, and this is exactly one x-intercept. Okay, but it's important to have all of these options so that you can choose, you can have at least 3 points of the parabola that you can plot out. Also, if you have only one x-intercept or no x-intercept and you need another coordinate, you can obviously just put in random values of y or x. I would say put in random values of x, find the y, and plot some coordinates to form your parabola. But if you want to do it quickly, then you can use these points to help you. But yeah, that's all for this video. What we have explored is this vertex form of a parabola. We've looked at what A stands for, what H is, what K is, and we've looked at how to plot a parabola from this form. So, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Like, share, and subscribe. If you did like this video, please let me know in the comment section. If you do have any questions, also pop them down below. Till then, take care. Bye.